Okay, let's just go and do a little review of this tree of life thing. It's like, first we understand that, these aspects, right, these deities are not simply or solely aspects or deities that are outside of us, right? And when we're speaking about the tree of life, we're talking about something that is above and below, something that is out in the world as well as in man's spirit. So it's possible to see, the effects and the manifestation of these various spheres out there in the world as well as in the personal spirit of man. All right. So, now we're in the lofty stages, right? We're way above now. We're up to sphere 3. This is the omnipotence aspect. This is the divine spheres of man. These are the parts that come dormant in most humans who, still have the job to do of development, right? The 5% say, yeah, we God, and it's true. But the thing is, to access that actuality, man needs to grow himself, right? And how you grow yourself? Well, you make yourself God by doing away with the quote-unquote bodily fetters, right? With those things that are low within you, right? With the Sahu aspects of your spirit, you purify them. I'm speaking to you about a potentiality in all of our spirit. I'm not claiming that I have completed this process. I have seen the effects of purity and, walking a correct walk, although I am not perfected. I'm definitely not a perfected being, but, again, I have this information, so I'm going to be able to relate it to you as I work on my own perfection as well. Right, so we're talking about, okay, so we say that the Ba division is omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence. And omnipotence is where we're at right now. This is the aspect of God that does all things. This is power, the power side of God, the power side of man's spirit. All the things that we bring into the world and we actualize, we do it through the Seker sphere, right? Or I should say the Seker sphere. Seker is the feminization of the deity. This is the aspect of the sphere in its creative form, right? Whereas Seker now is the male side of the deity, which is referred to in its death side. Seker governs over the cycles of birth, growth, aging or maturing, and then death, right? All cycles of changes and events are under the dominion of Seker, right? So Seker is the Grim Reaper, Seker is, all of these things, right? So it's a spiritual power, right? Man's omnipotence. You remember when you were young, your parents, if you had good parents, you say, well, mommy, I want to be an astronaut. And your mom will come back with, well, son, you can do whatever you put your mind to. Well, this is what we're talking about here. It's possible to achieve all that you can possibly achieve. The potential is right there in your spirit, right? This is the power side. It's like, if what you want is in line with your destiny, then to the degree that one applies himself, this thing can be achieved, right? Provided it doesn't violate natural laws, physics, principles of manifest reality. This is the third sphere, So there's power within the limits of Earth, life, right? Within the limitations of Earth. You have a physical body. Your body is what limits the expression of your full divinity, right? As a drop of water is to, all of the water, all of the ocean water, this is, a metaphor Seker uses, is what man is to God, right? The same type of being, but on a smaller level, right? Incarnated beings have the limitation of time and space and the physical body, right? Where the great Muntu is the Bantu word for God, right? And man, right? Both God and man are called Muntu in the Bantu tradition. So this is a clue from these ancient Africans, right? So where the great Muntu simply wills what is done, man must deal with the limitations of the three-dimensional plane, manifest reality, right? The outer world, the outer plane. This means that what we will or want, will be limited by, and sometimes depends on things like, time constraints, delays, right? We'll have obstructions, things that obstruct our way, limitations on our energy, the wants and desires of other people, right? We're limited by the rules, we're limited by authorities, the will in some cases, of those with more power than us, right? To the degree that the spirit can persevere through these limitations, will the example of that power manifest through the individual, right? So and some of that is about your spiritual age, right? So Seker is old, right? Seker is achieved after a long life and experience, right? Adversity, as we said, this is the school of life. Life is a school, right? So the lessons we're being taught are about manifesting one's divinity. There's no growth of the bicep without the perseverance that it takes to lift the weight, right? Father Ra explains that the root to wisdom and power, spiritual power, is adversity. And it's true. You go through a rough situation that you're now talking about, and it's 20 years later, and you're laughing about it as you talk this over with your younger children or your grandchildren or whatever like that, and you laugh at it, because of the lessons that you learned while dealing with that hard leg struggle, right? At Seker, life is hard, this is the top of the pillar of severity. Right, so yeah, things are going to be hard. I recently saw a Facebook comment that was like, always remember that unbeknown to you, everyone you meet is going through their own struggle, whether it's a battle with others or within oneself, or with the world, trying to rise from one level to the next. Everybody's involved in their own fight, so be careful of your judgments that you put on other people. So Seker compels you to live the truth. Seker is harsh. It's not like Ma'at, right? Where you can ignore the law, right? You can blow the feather of truth away, right? It's the truth, but you can blow it away like it doesn't exist. Seker, is going to compel you to live by this truth now. At this stage, Seker sits you down in the seat and says, you must have this class today, right now. Now you got a 15-year sentence to think about it, or you got a traffic jam, or you got a delay for this money that you're supposed to get, or something else, or you got death. Seker comes and brings death to you, like that's the lesson that Seker, you think Heruti hard, please, Heruti, you cut your finger, break your bone, crash your car, they'll patch you up, you'll be alright. Seker will make you hungry, Seker will take all your dough from you, make you lose pounds, you feel me, and say, is that the substance of what you are? What is the lesson you're supposed to learn, child? Is that what makes you? Seker will make you sit on your hands for 10 years with bars around you and say, when you learn your lesson, you'll get out, mature. Seker will mess around and take your life, and then talk to you on the other side about your lesson. You know what I'm saying? It's the realest deity on the tree. Seker will get you fired from your job. Well, Heruti will too, but Seker says, oh, you want some power now? Well, let me give you some adversity. This is how Seker works. I remember a time, it's about maybe 15 years ago, it was during the Saturn cycle. Seker is, the thing that governs Saturn, Capricorn as well. I got up at the crack of dawn on a Saturday, right? The time, right? I was doing a ritual. I gets up at the crack of dawn. I does this ritual, Seker. I chant. I go back to bed for a couple hours. Then I get up and go to work. Don't you know? I gets to the job and gets fired on some whim stuff. I mean, it was so corny the reason I got fired. It was like, the boss put like a stick of bacon in his mouth and just went stupid and fired me for something corny that he shouldn't have fired me for. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm walking away like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got adversity now. Like, I don't have my job no more. You know what I mean? And look, for years after that, I was a little leery at doing Seker rituals. You know what I mean? Because again, when you come to this level, you gotta identify with Oser. That's how you do a Seker ritual and be successful, by identifying, with God. You gotta meet the challenge that lays before you, and be blessed. I can also tell you stories about doing a Seker ritual and being blessed with the direct experience of my past life, death. You know what I'm saying? Something that had everything to do with certain challenges I have now in this life. You know what I mean? I saw that, experienced it, re-experienced it as the spirit that I was then. You know what I'm saying? So now the argument of whether or not reincarnation is real, I won't even have it with you, because, there's no need. Like, I know it's something that's true. You know what I'm saying? And this is a blessing from Seker. They say when Seker gives it to you, you never lose it, right? Seker puts you through all kinds of adversity, but then Seker opens up the way for you. I had meditation the other day. It was very interesting. I was chanting to Seker, and when I went into trance, I saw myself at the top of a mountain, and Seker was sitting there, and he kind of just beckoned me. Actually, it felt like Seker for some reason. And she beckoned me over to, come here, come on over here, child, and sit down, and she wanted me to meditate, which is what I was doing. But, it was a softer side. What I experienced was her, saying to me that in these limitations that she's provided me with at this time, that there's great lessons in power, and I have to, just be up for that, So, it was a very interesting kind of, communication that I had, Yeah, this is the thing about the Metu Neter Oracle. You can meditate and actually receive messages from your spirit. This is, the God inside of me telling me to be steadfast, in my struggle, and it doesn't get no better than that. I don't care what religion you are, it gets no better, right? All right, let me move on. So, the hawk-headed deity, right? Again, we have Heru, we have Heruti, right? This is another thing, thing to look at when people talk about how the deities walked around on the planet. There was never, I can bet you that there was never a time when some man was walking around that actually had a hawk head on this planet, right? I mean, that's, it's real common sense. Like, it's no miracle that you'll never see a man with a hawk head. It didn't happen then, and it ain't gonna happen tomorrow, right? Okay, so, what we're saying, what the ancients were saying when they showed you these animals on these people's heads, is they would, or as these people's heads attached to human bodies, is that this particular animal is the mindset of the deity, right? A hawk is what? Serious. A hawk is, severe, right? You don't mess with no hawk, right? A hawk is, a predator, So that is the mindset when you see a Heru or Herukti or a Seker, It's a serious thing. On the other hand, the cow, when you see all set, right? What is the cow? Cow is docile, is easy and flowing. You know what I'm saying? So it's a crocodile is hard. A dog is clever. There are a bunch of examples. A cat is very sensual, feminine, right? Talking about heteru now, right? So okay, so we have the hawk-headed, right? So we're talking about serious, talking about sober, talking about stubborn, talking about steadfast, hard work, perseverance, things that take a long time, right? Nothing you get over Seker is going to be tomorrow. Get a deity, you get a reading and you see Seker, you're going to be there for a while getting that, right? But it's something that you should go through, because Seker is destiny, right? We spoke about the cycles, right? Seker is, governs the destinies of individuals. Seker was at your birth 5 lifetimes ago, overseeing it, right? The divine plan, the long term, right? That's, the Seker sphere. Sure, man controls his fate, but within parameters of what is planned for him, within the limitations of the cycles of life, right? And according to the lessons necessary for his or her development, or spiritual attainment. Seker oversees the web of interconnected incarnations, governs over life cycles, right? Kepara, the manifestation of life, is the creative aspect, as we said, the feminine force, which is involved in creation, right? You have the opposite of Seker is Heteru, right? So here we have, we're talking about creation and bringing things into effect at the Seker sphere, right? And its correlate, perfect opposite, is Heteru, which is the faculty of creativity. So that tells you something about your, the feminine aspects of man are involved in creativity. So this is for all you brothers who are so masculine that you can't identify with your feminine side. You're doing yourself a disservice where it comes to your creative aspects. Be more creative if you open up to that. To some degree. I ain't saying we got to go out here and put on women's clothes and or walk down the street switching. You feel me? I'm saying, you got to acknowledge yourself in its wholeness, right? Again, we're talking about holistic. Holistic means accessing all aspects of you. This is what this tree of life does, right? All right, so, Seker is the Hekau, the words of power, right? The words that elicit a certain response within the spirit, right? There are certain words that you say, no matter, what religion or no matter what culture you come from and its different languages, we all say certain things, when we're having a particular type of emotion, that means the same thing universally, the best example, with Tehuti, right? Tehuti's mantra is Hung, Ong Hung. It's what you chant when you want wisdom, when you want to, want that light of intuition to come on within inside of you. So, what do you do when you're wondering something, right? Things that make you go, right? And that's universal. You could be Chinese, you could be Brazilian, you could be Aboriginal. If you're wondering how this peg fits into this, hole, right? You're gonna be like, let me check this out. Let me investigate this. Let me wonder about this, right? Well, it's because your spirit automatically knows that the response to is wisdom, is intuition, right? This is just to let you get an understanding of what mantra is and what it's about and why it's used. Many of us are scared of these things because these concepts we learn in regular Christian church that we go to. These concepts are taboo. They teach us these things because they don't want you to access your true self. You have to be leery of some of these religions when they say don't do this or do. You have to have your eye on. Again, you got to deal with Heru is going to be that thing that helps you to reason through the BS that you see coming at you, right? For some man to tell you that meditation is not good for your spirit, that's a man who, one, either just doesn't understand meditation or is a criminal. You know what I'm saying? For telling you that, because that's how you access God. That's how God accesses you. So here at the Seker sphere, the mental mode is stillness. This is where there are no thoughts streaming in. You find that if you slow down your breath to the point where you're receiving maybe 3 breaths per minute, right? And even slower than that, to the point where you get to 1 breath per minute, you'll find that your thoughts, and it's not impossible to do 1 breath per minute. You just have to have control of your abdomen, and you spend about 20 seconds on the in breath, about 20 seconds holding, and about 20 seconds on the out breath, and that's a full breath. And you'll find that if you do that over a good period of time, your thoughts will slow down, and they'll get to the point where you will be able to kind of just look at your thoughts, kind of just observe. There's a detachment that occurs between yourself and your thoughts, right? This is when you really experience your connection, your divine sameness with God, right? Because the thoughts are nothing more than the things that you learned, the different things that you've heard, the things that running back and forth in your head, going back and forth in your head. And also you have thoughts that stream in from outside of your head. People pick up on other people's thoughts. It just depends on how receptive you are, right? So the thoughts are going to be there. So now when you get down to this point where you've slowed your breath down, it's possible to ignore those thoughts and just watch them and kind of be detached from them. And in this whole process, what you're doing is you wind up stilling out your thoughts to the point where you're not thinking about anything. That's the mental mode of Seker. The divine plan is not thought up, it's intuited. It's known already, and it's just a matter of the person becoming placing himself in the point where he can become aware of the plan, right? So Seker is about planning. It's about the divine plan. You see a Seker reading, it's telling you need to sit down. Seker is about meditation as well. Meditation falls under the Seker. We said Oset. Oset is more so trance, right? But the actual, ability to still out and go to a zone where you may receive intuition, where you may communicate with the divine, that is Seker, right? We said the planning, organizational things, right? You see a Seker comes up is saying that you need to get still enough that you can intuit the plan, right? This is when you see Seker, it says that you have to invoke your inner power now, your spiritual ability to do, right? It speaks to mantra, right? The use of mantra, right? What else? When you see a Seker reading, many times it's about waiting. There's an obstruction, right? Or there is a delay in the thing that you want, right? So it's about waiting in peace, Yeah, so almost exited this thing without including one of the most important lessons of Seker. Probably the most important lesson of Seker is the need to die to the ways of the world, right? We said that Seker governs death. Seker is about, the ultimate growth, that from, the human stages, spheres 4 and below, to the divine spheres, which is sphere 3 and above. So as Seker, your joy comes from, not being attached to this world. Your joy comes from your divinity, comes from your freedom, from your power, from your ability to wield the forces of God through your stillness, So it's about dying, Years ago, I received a dream in the Capricorn cycle once again. It was a pretty deep dream, where basically, I had gone through some tribulations and things, and I came from a business meeting, and I was looking out into the world, and I was seeing like war and all kinds of things going on. And then out of this clear blue, my face just turned into this face of this bird. There's this big, huge bird. It was crazy watching my face morph into this bird that was like decrepit and creepy looking. It was like gray and flaky, like with scaly, like, like it had been through something, And then I saw the bird me as the bird flying out in the world, and I noticed that when I would go by people, actually, yeah, it was like people were doing bad, like it was bad times, it was like apocalyptic times, what I'm saying? And I flew by Will Smith from I Am Legend, He was out in the world scavenging for food or whatever, and I flew by him. He was sad, what I'm saying? I could sense that he was sad and hurt by things that happened in the world or whatever. And as I flew by him, I kind of communicated some sort of energy to him, and he, and it lifted him. He got to be like, now he's walking with a little pep in his step, and he's feeling good. And so it was like, and that was pretty much the end of the dream. But it wasn't until maybe a year or so later that I figured out that bird was the phoenix. I was the phoenix. I had gone through the ash. That's why my skin was my feathers were flaky, and I was all gray. I had gone through the fire. What I'm saying? And now, I was benevolent. Now I was giving my power to other people. It was deep. That's just, that was one of the deepest situations in my life, and I know that was gifted to me by my ancestor. I have an ancestor, Seker, which is a priest of Seker. And as I was waking up, she was singing in my ear, and she sung this song to me, and it was all about dying to the ways of the world. And I wrote down the lyrics and everything, and I'm not able to sing that song yet because I'm not done. I'd like to be able to report that I'm that big and that strong, but You know, I'm not done with the ways of the world just yet. You know, and you know, you guys will. I suppose the world will get to hear that song when I've grown a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So there's much more to be said about this. Again, Seker is no small issue. Seker is deep. You know what I mean? You can go on 5 days and still have more to say about this faculty. Right. So you guys get on your study, and yeah, I'm gonna see you at Tehuti. Peace.